What do a Danish carpenter, a stubborn plastic obsession, and a global army of bedtime builders have in common? They all helped turn a little wooden toy company into the colorful empire known as LEGO. Welcome to Unboxd Origins. I'm Howie, your resident science geek and accidental trivia sponge.
And I'm Wyatt. I ask the big questions. Sometimes philosophical, often skeptical, always curious.
Today, we're digging into how did Lego bricks become a global phenomenon? Picture Denmark in the 1930s, modest workshops, post-depression thrift, and a craftsman named Ole Kirk Christiansen who started making wooden toys in 1932. He registered the name Lego in 1934, a contraction of the Danish phrase "leg godt," play well, which is honestly the most charming brand origin story in toy history. But Lego as we know it, those interlocking, colorful plastic bricks, did not appear overnight. The company experimented through the 1940s, moving from wood to plastic as injection molding technology promised durability and mass production. Lego bought its first plastic injection molding machine in 1947 and in 1949 began producing automatic binding bricks, a concept that built on earlier ideas like Hilary Page's 1947 Kiddicraft self-locking building brick. Early plastic toys were a gamble. Sometimes they warped. Sometimes they came apart in a kid's fist. But Ole and then his son, Gottfried, were obsessed with one idea. Toys should invite creative, constructive play, not just passively entertain. Crucial pivot came in the 1940s and 1950s when Lego refined the automatic binding idea into something elegant and stubbornly precise. People often imagine the 2x4 stud brick as an accident of delight, but its success was engineered. In 1958, Ole Kirk Christiansen filed a patent for the stud and tube design that gives bricks their famous clutch power, the satisfying click when pieces lock together. That patent wasn't just legal paperwork. It encoded a philosophy. Lego wasn't selling individual toys, it was selling a system. Pieces could be combined in endless ways, and thus a single box could seed an entire imaginative universe. From then on, the company standardized dimensions, colors, and production practices, turning a growing set of molds into a combinatorial playground. As the decades rolled on, Lego built an ecosystem. The 1960s brought the explicit idea of the system of play, sets that formed neighborhoods, space stations, and medieval castles. Billund, the company's Danish hometown, became home to tests, prototypes, and eventually Legoland in 1968, a physical theme park that made brick-based worlds tangible. In 1978, Lego introduced the minifigure, a tiny, articulated person whose facial expression has arguably influenced more childhood diplomacy than any UN summit. The 1980s and 1990s pushed globalization and licensing, and Lego learned to tell stories with bricks, from town sets to licensed properties, like Star Wars. The first official Star Wars sets arrived in 1999. The brand became not just a toy maker, but a storytelling platform, an engineering classroom, and eventually, a collector's market. Kids grew up, kept their bricks, and passed them down. Adults discovered joy, and collectors recognized value. Suddenly, Lego was not just for children. It powered cross-generational nostalgia.
Aha! Here's the twist most people miss. Lego's rise wasn't simply about innovation or a sweet logo. It was a very deliberate answer to a set of cultural problems. Post-war Europe needed durable, versatile toys that could survive rough play, economic constraints, and evolving educational theories about play. Lego supplied durability through industrial precision. The tolerances in those molds are extremely tight by toy standards, and educational value through open-ended construction. But even more paradoxically, Lego succeeded by embracing constraints. By standardizing studs, colors, and system rules, Lego created freedom inside a frame. Creativity often blossoms when rules are clear. Because the mind can explore infinite combinations inside a reliable grammar. That's the kernel. LEGO made rules the scaffolding for imagination. And people across the world recognize that as both comforting and liberating.
Exactly. That freedom through constraint idea is core to the design. Behind each bright brick is a mountain of engineering, injection molding machines, precise cooling, and rigorous quality control so bricks from different decades still stack together. The company refined plastics, molds, and color stability because a child pulling a vintage brick from a parent's box and snapping it to a new brick should get the same satisfying connection. Meanwhile, LEGO's marketing didn't scream assembly required. It whispered possibilities. The sets included instruction booklets, yes, but those booklets often presented multiple narratives rather than dictating a single play pattern. Even the names of product lines, town, space, castle, were invitations. The real genius was letting the toys be both instructions and blank canvas. But like any epic, LEGO's story has near-death scenes. The late 1990s and early 2000s were rough. Over-diversification, poorly performing product lines, and a loss of focus pushed the company toward financial peril. For a while, LEGO chased licensed sets, electronic gimmicks, and a dizzying array of tiny sub-brands, thinking variety alone would equal growth. Instead, the brand drifted away from its core, the system of play. The comeback required a ruthless simplification. New leadership, notably Jørgen Vig Knudstorp, who became CEO in 2004, refocused on the bricks, optimized manufacturing, and embraced partnerships that made narrative sense, like high-quality licensed sets that fit into the system rather than replacing it. And then, something magical happened. The cultural cachet exploded. LEGO embraced adults with advanced sets, turned its intellectual property into hit films, the LEGO Movie in 2014 being a major example, and cultivated fans who shared their creations online, creating a community that multiplied the brand's reach.
And there's another overlooked angle: the legal and cultural tug-of-war behind the bricks. LEGO didn't invent the idea of modular bricks in isolation. There were predecessors and competitors experimenting with interlocking pieces. The 1958 patent protected LEGO's stud and tube system. But when that and other protections lapsed in the 1970s, compatible bricks appeared from rivals. LEGO has a long history of defending its intellectual property, sometimes aggressively. For example, in legal battles with other brick makers like Mega Bloks, while over time also finding ways to engage and empower its fan community. In the 2000s and 2010s, the company expanded outreach to adult fans of LEGO and launched platforms like LEGO Ideas, originally Kusu, to turn fan creations into official sets. The surprising contradiction is that protecting a proprietary format early on helped make the bricks a reliable standard, and later, a combination of legal defense and open community engagement helped the cultural ecosystem flourish. That paradox, protect to enable, then collaborate, is one of the quiet reasons LEGO became so widespread.
Let's zoom into manufacturing and distribution because that's where the global phenomenon gets practical teeth. LEGO moved from wooden shops to highly automated, geographically dispersed factories capable of producing billions of elements per year. They established color standards aimed at consistency. Though some pigments and exact hues have changed over decades, interchangeability across product lines, and quality checks that weed out tiny defects. The supply chain is this astonishing choreography. Designers in Billund dreaming up micro-architectures, engineers making molds with tolerances down to hundredths of a millimeter, factories stamping out millions of identical components, logistics teams distributing sets worldwide, and retailers and online platforms importing that tiny plastic joy into bedrooms, schools, and offices. The scale matters. When you can rely on tens of thousands of identical bricks being produced with precision, you liberate designers and players to think big. The mass-produced reliability of LEGO made it a shared language. And worldwide adoption wasn't only industrial, it was cultural and institutional. Schools began using LEGO for education, teachers appreciating its tangible way to teach math, engineering, and storytelling. Educational products like LEGO Mindstorms, introduced in 1998, and the broader LEGO education line bridged play and formal learning, turning LEGO into a pedagogical tool. Theme parks, movies, and video games transformed the brand into lived experience and narrative culture. The internet then created a multiplier: fan builds, stop-motion animations, and online marketplaces. Adult fan conventions filled with intricate cityscapes or life-sized cars made entirely of bricks became social proof that LEGO wasn't just child's play. The brand had become an eruption of culture. Toys, learning kits, art pieces, and blockbuster entertainment all rolled into one colorful, interlocking package.
Another aha moment worth pondering. LEGO's global success was accelerated by cultural adaptability. In many ways, the brick is a neutral language. Unlike toys tied to a single story or locale, the brick can become anything: a mosque, a spaceship, a farm. That neutrality allowed LEGO to slide into diverse cultures without being tone deaf, and later to partner respectfully with cultural brands and properties. It's the difference between a toy that says, "This is the story," and one that asks, "What's your story?" By posing the question, LEGO invited users worldwide to project their narratives into the system. That universality, almost linguistic in nature, let LEGO cross borders with remarkable ease.
Of course, the story continues. Today, LEGO faces new moral and ecological questions. Can a brand built on plastic remain a cultural hero in an era of sustainability? LEGO's answer has been complex. Investing in research, introducing plant-based polyethylene for certain elements, like botanical pieces starting in 2018, improving packaging, and setting a goal to make all core products and packaging from sustainable materials by 2030. They're also embracing digital experiences without losing the tactile heart of the product. The company has to balance legacy, that same perfect clutch, that consistent click, with new materials and new modes of play. It's a delicate engineering, marketing, and ethical juggling act. But if history is any guide, LEGO tends to iterate rationally. They pilot, test, and scale what preserves play's quality.
So why does any of this matter beyond nostalgia? Because LEGO exemplifies a larger cultural phenomenon about how tools shape thought. The bricks are not only toys, but cognitive prosthetics. They structure the way children and adults visualize problems, test hypotheses, and iterate solutions. Play becomes practice for larger skills: planning, spatial reasoning, storytelling, collaboration. The company's commitment to a system, to constraints designed for exploration, models a design philosophy transferable to education, software, and even governance. Plus, on a simpler level, LEGO demonstrates how a product that respects the user's creative agency can outlast fads. It doesn't tell you how to think, it gives you the pieces to find out.
To put it succinctly, LEGO became a global phenomenon by marrying industrial precision with playful generosity. They invented and protected a system that reliably worked, invested in narratives and experiences that made bricks meaningful, and cultivated communities that extended the product into culture. From a tiny Danish workshop to theme parks, classrooms, movies, and kitchen table masterpieces, LEGO leveraged a simple engineering tweak, the stud and tube clutch, into a design grammar that people around the world could learn and love. It's part engineering, part storytelling, part cultural intelligence, and a generous helping of insistence on quality.
And from my vantage, the core lesson is philosophical. A good rule set can amplify freedom. LEGO's rules. Its standard sizes, stable materials, and system thinking didn't constrain imagination. They enabled it. That's a hopeful message in a noisy world. Structure, when thoughtfully designed, can be the scaffolding for creativity, not its prison. So whether you're building a spaceship or a small, tidy cottage, you're participating in a larger human experiment in making and meaning.
If you grab a handful of bricks tonight, you're not just fiddling with plastic. You're touching decades of design decisions, economic shifts, and cultural conversations stitched together by engineers, storytellers, and makers. Those bricks are durable, not just physically, but conceptually. They survived market crashes, near bankruptcy, and changing play patterns because they offered a dependable platform for imagination that adapts with the times.
And there's a broader comfort in that continuity. In a changing world, a toy that keeps working the same way across generations becomes an heirloom of play. A small but potent connector between parents and children, between past and future. That's why LEGO matters. It's not only a brand or a product, it's a shared language for making things, for inventing, repairing, and imagining worlds together.
If you enjoyed this deep dive into the bricks backstory, like, subscribe, and share this episode with your fellow builders.
So next time you snap a brick into place, ask again, how did LEGO bricks become a global phenomenon? And remember that sometimes the most revolutionary ideas are the ones that invite you to play.